Philippi, you remember? Caesarea Philippi is found at the northern eastern border, but Caesarea Maritima is something else. Caesarea Maritima was built entirely built by Herod, the father, Herod the Great, and he decided to build at the place of Caesarea Maritima. He decided to build a Roman city plus a port, and basically it was the first artificial harbor that was ever built by man. It was done by Herod himself in the year 20 before Jesus Christ. And he wanted to compete with the Phoenician port that used to exist close to the area, that used to be operating since the 3rd century before Jesus Christ, whose name was Triton Tower. So Herod, in order to reinforce the relation with Rome, he decided to build that port, which has helped in developing trade and tourism, let's say, between the outside world and Judea, that was under his rule. And he built the port plus the theater plus the hippodrome, which is the horses race, and he simply built a Roman city with all the Roman features for a city, which is the bathhouse, the gymnasium, the amphitheater, in addition to his huge palace built at the coastal plain. So Herod the Great, he was called the Great not because he was a great humanist, but he was a great builder. There is a sample of everything in this country. A sample of many things. You have the mountains, you know that we have snow in Israel, like 4 months a year, from December up to March, on top of Mount Hermon. So we have a sample of snow where we can see people skiing. It's not like Canada, of course. Once I was with a group from Canada, and it was 3 years ago. They came on January, I think, and it happened at that time we had snow, but you know, we had only 7 centimeters, and I was ashamed to tell them that everything is blocked and closed for 2 days. No schools, no municipalities, you know, everybody stayed at home because of 7 to 10 centimeters of snow. This is how it is in this country. We are not used to have snow. Exactly. Also, so the main roads were rearranged, and but the other small streets and branches, well, remained for 1 week. So you have a sample of everything in this country, you know. You have the snow, you have the desert, you have the mountains. We have 4 ranges of mountains. If you take, yes, if you take the take the Jordan River, the range of mountains which is found to the east of the Jordan River, it's called the Eastern Rift Mountains, composed out of the Jordan Valley and the Valley of Arava. And then you have the Western Moab Mountains. This is the range of mountains to the west west of the Jordan River, and then you have the Judean and Samaritan and the Galilean mountains. So those are the different ranges of mountains that you see in the country. And you have the Red Sea, you have the Dead Sea, and you have the Mediterranean Sea, and in addition to the Sea of Galilee. And you have samples of everything: peace and war, hate and love. And you know, in this country, you complain about it, but you cannot leave it. I don't know why. You complain about everything's bad, but you still love to stay here. After all, it's good that we don't have a country like Finland or Canada where everything goes perfectly well. Otherwise, we'll have otherwise we will have a high rate of suicides. You know, if everything is perfectly well, and then you are bored. Everything is done for your comfort, you know. So we are going to see the aqueduct of Caesarea. What is the aqueduct? You know, when Herod the Great built his city, he thought of bringing water from the closest sources of water, because there was no desalination plants at that time, so they could not use the water sea. So what happened? He built an aqueduct, bringing water from a distance at 13 kilometers, about 7 miles, from what we call the Shune Springs, and from the range of Mount Carmel. And the need was enough at that time. But when the Romans took control of the city, more precisely during the rule of Hadrian, we will show you the aqueduct that was enlarged and built by Hadrian, who ruled the country in the year 135. Hadrian was the Roman emperor who defeated the rebellions of the second Jewish revolt against the Romans. If there is a second, this means there is a first. So the first Jewish revolt took place in the year 66 after Jesus Christ and ended in the year 73 with the fall of Masada. But that revolt started from where? From Caesarea Maritima, from the city where Jews and Greeks used to live. So the Greeks, who are close to the Romans, made it difficult the life of Jews at Caesarea Maritima, and they have influenced the Romans to force the Jews to sacrifice their animals not for God but for the Roman emperor. But this is something that they totally refuse, because this cannot be. And this was the reason why there has been a revolt, an uprising against the occupiers, against the Romans. And the revolt started from Caesarea Maritima in the year 66 after Jesus Christ and spread all over the country. So we will show you the aqueduct that was built to enlarge the line of the channel and serve the increased population of the city. You have to know that Caesarea Maritima was first built in the year 20 and was occupied by almost all the civilizations who conquered the land. After Herod, the Romans occupied the city, and then the Byzantine came and built a church over the temple of the Romans. And when the Byzantines were defeated by the Muslims, they came and built a mosque. And then the Crusaders came and enlarged the city and rebuilt a church over the mosque. But in the year 1263, the Crusaders were defeated and kicked out of the country, and the Mamluk have destroyed everything, and this was even almost the end of Caesarea. Look, yes, friends, this is part of the aqueduct. This is part of it. Imagine that this is the upper section. Water will be channeled all along the way from the north up to here. So I'm inviting you to go closer if you want. Just choose the passage where there's no so many sand. If you would like to go there. And since the third son, whose name was Archelaus, was in charge of Jerusalem, was very cruel as his father. He ruled for 6 years and then he was expelled. As a result, the Romans will send a Roman procurator or prefect who will live in Caesarea Maritima. So again, we have another information that Caesarea Maritima would be the place or the headquarters for the Roman procurators. And during the 60s of the last century, the archaeologists discovered a piece of stone on which it was written the following: this building was built in honor, or this building was built during the rule of Pontius Pilate. This means that the personality of Pontius Pilate did exist, because they have discovered a piece of stone in which it was written this sentence, and that piece of stone is found, the original stone is found in the Israeli Museum. So and again we have a confirmation of the Bible in addition to the one in Capernaum. Let me show you this part of Caesarea Maritima. So I told you that in the 13th and the 12th and 13th century, this city was enlarged by the Crusaders. This gate here to the right is a Crusader gate. You enter from here, but you have to turn to the right and then to the left and then to the right. Look at the dungeon here to the right. This is an entirely preserved Crusader site. It was added, look here to the right. This is from the 12th and 13th centuries. Here to the right, the Roman and Byzantine section there.